There's a basic concept when it comes to TCGs that alpha commands a giant premium. We've seen this in Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering, everything, man. Any alpha set for a TCG, because it was the first thing that they printed, is going to command a premium. And I really want to rant and get into the subject of bulk Welcome to Wrath for Flesh and Blood. And why I have no idea why it's 25 cents a card to 50 cents a card. These cards are just pretty limited from what we've seen with the print runs when that came out. And I just don't think it's been focused on. And I just want to say in the beginning, this is an entertainment channel, obviously. I'm just entertaining you. I'm just a normal guy in a normal room. Take whatever you want with any grains of salt that you'd like. And also, I am extremely biased when it comes to this opinion. Because, man, I have a shitload of Welcome to Wrath and Arcane Rising bulk. I've told you this before. So I'm going to be extremely biased when I'm telling you this. And there is a whole thing that is a moral and a weird dilemma that I have that I want to talk about shit, but I don't want to like, I don't want to like bum rush you to the market to make my stuff go up in value. It's a whole dilemma, but I don't get too many views, which is a good thing. So I feel like I can talk about this and not really move the market too much. But this is honestly just entertainment and just me being baffled. I have no idea why you can make a blitz deck for Flesh and Blood with a bunch of bulk commons for like less than $50. It's been like that for a while, and it just baffles me. It's crazy. Can you imagine that? Like in Magic the Gathering, building an alpha deck. And I know, I will say this, Magic the Gathering's been out for a very long period of time. It has so much higher market cap. It has all these things successful for the game. But ultimately, if people are putting money into Flesh and Blood and people are trying to collect it, don't don't you want the alpha? Don't you want the alpha cards? And I just want to say that, in this given time period, I think what's happened mainly is that Monarch came out. And then after the 1 to 3 week window of Monarch being out and Unlimited Monarch coming out, prices decreased. And there's other market things that happened other than just the 3 week period that Monarch came out. And whenever you have that, I've told you in previous videos that is a basic concept with any TCG. Once the card game comes out with the new set, it's going to be very high prices for singles. But as 3 weeks come out after allocation and after everybody has their boxes and they open them, there's going to be a huge bum rush of supply into the market, which will reduce these prices. And that's what we're seeing now. And I think people really have gotten all this thing wrong with the current market period in June 2021. People think it's due to crypto and all this other stuff and all the other TCGs and all that. And I do admit that that has an effect. But I really think that the main point of Monarch doing that whole thing got other people scared, and then every content creator and their mothers creating a video saying that the Flesh and Blood is going down and their market crash and all this stuff. But I think it was really induced. But that's beyond the point. The big point you're probably gonna say, Bronson, bulk is dumb. When you're a big collector, you don't really care about bulk. And I understand that. I think that's the biggest downside to bulk is that collectors don't really want it. Like high-end ones, they don't really care about alpha bulk. Maybe they want a set collect, but they only need one copy of a card. I think in the end of all this thing though is that it's extremely limited. Like the amount of bulk, if you look at the generic bulk especially, if you have 400,000 booster packs, you have around like 30 to 35,000 cards of each generic common or each class common, which is a very small run. And when you think about the amount of supply that's in this market, man, I mean it's only 2021. This game has only been running out for like a year and a half. Like, what do you think those bulk Welcome to Wrath is going to look like in the next 3 to 4 years? Like, do you think it's going to stay at that rate? Do you think that supply is just going to stay in the market? No, there's so many big people out there who have a huge amount of the print run already. Look at Saint from the Fable Hunters. He's publicly said, "Hey, I have like 5 to 15% of the print run in sealed product alone." So if you knew that he had that at that time or has his cards, I don't think he's selling. Love the guy. Let me just say that. Really cool guy. I'm just saying if he has that type of collection, then what do other big collectors have, and he's been talking about a lot of other like bigger collectors than him. And like, how many big people do you have that own like 3 to 5% of all the Welcome to Wraith print run, and they're just holding on to it. They're not releasing in the market. So you have so many factors at play to where there's really not enough supply out there. And I think that over time, you're going to see this principle happen where people are going to value the alpha sets. They're going to want to set collect. You're going to have that middle tier collector who's going to be interested in buying the cards. And I think that's really the key here. You're going to have people who want to build a complete alpha deck of even non-foil. Just make an alpha deck. So be like, oh look, this is a piece of history. I know I'm the same way. I have a bunch of bulk. I haven't sorted into a deck yet, but that's really what one of the big things I want to do. I want to make a full alpha deck. I think that would be cool. And at this period of time, I just don't know why. I don't know why the cards are like 25 to 50 cents. Like, let's say you price it at 25 cents a card, right? A Welcome to Wrath booster box, right? If you multiply the 25 cents by all the generics in there, it comes out to like $80. So even if that booster box is the same price right now for the 4,000 rate, you're putting $80 on like most of the cards in there. I just think that that's so weird. And if you think about it from a, let's say there's only like 33,000 cards for a specific generic, right? That's not many decks. I mean, if you put that into, Blitz decks, then that's like 15,000 people have that Blitz decks. Or, if you look at CC, then that's like 10,000 people each who could have that, like three ofs or two of copy in the deck. It's not that many people who can have that. And one thing that people aren't looking at all, and I've said this from the very beginning, is that common cards have really good power creep. They are really strong, and they have a lot of uses. People don't realize that that is a thing at play. And even if right now the card doesn't look good, in the future it could have more practicality, which will increase the demand for it. And when you're buying cards at 25 cents a piece, there's nowhere to go but up. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, sell it for 10 cents a piece, or like -5%? Like, it doesn't make sense. You have to sell it for at least 25 cents a piece. And when you look at the whole market, Flesh and Blood as a whole, before the whole crash that happened, the crash I'll say that happened in June 2021, bulk was at 25 cents, and it's 25 cents now. You know why? Because postage stamps cost 55 cents each. And you can't make money if you're selling these things at 25 cents each without no shipping costs. So, ultimately, my main point is this: that if people are trying to get into Flesh and Blood at this time, I've said in previous videos, I think bulk alpha is a really cool product. I have a shitload. I think that ultimately it is the alpha version of the game. And you cannot, even if you have all these reservations of all these different things of, oh, it's bulk and nobody really likes bulk and all these stuff, you gotta admit, bar none, alpha. Any alpha cards in any type of, TCG is always money long term, and it's always a cool thing to collect. And I mean, if you look at Rudy, he's not beta investment, not new age modern investments. It's alpha investments. And there's a point to that. Is because the alpha shit is really cool. That's the stuff you want to collect. That's what always retains value. Even if the new sets of a TCG coming out, if it doesn't do good or there's negative vibes to it, the money always flows back to alpha. And honestly, that's one of the biggest things I don't understand. I would have thought that this would have happened by now. I would have thought that people would be rushing back to Alpha and putting their money back from, like, taking all the new age cards from Monarch and be like, I'm just going to sell this stuff, or I'm not going to, do this. I'm going to get back into the Welcome to Wrath because that's the base. That's Alpha. But we haven't seen that yet. And that's very odd to me, and it really kind of shows the depth of thinking of the whole market, the secondary market as a whole for Flesh and Blood. And I think it's really due to people just trying to rush into things and listen to market hype, and then they like jump in. And I've seen that so many times, and because it hasn't been the focus, because it hasn't had its day in the sun, people don't really care. And people are interested in like flashy, foily, cold foil, all these like nice little artwork, extended art. Whoa, like all these like crazy variants and stuff. And maybe that's just kind of our time period that people are more interested in those sexy things. And I don't blame them, they look cool. But ultimately, you got to remember that for all TCGs, the alpha stuff has money. And I know it's a miss to really compare this apples to apples to MTG. But if you look at MTG cards, look at the alpha print cards. Now they're insane values. And I know the game's been out for 25 years. I know that it's you know the most popular game in the world for trading card games. It's one of the most popular games. So, it's hard to say like, oh, well, it should be these prices. It's definitely not in that range. I'm not asserting that at all. I just think it's more than frickin' a dollar. I think these cards are definitely worth more than that. Because if you look at how like all the money in other games goes to those older cards, it's only a matter of time for the supply of these cards to run out for enough people who want to either set collect or create a deck for Flesh and Blood of Alpha. It's those middle tier investors and collectors that are going to eat that shit up. Those are the types of people. Now, the high end investors, they're not really going to care. I don't think that they're going to care as much. Will they reap rewards when the cards go up in price? Yeah, yeah, they might sell singles. Who knows what they're going to do? But ultimately, man, I think it's just hasn't been a sexy type of thing to put your money in and people to buy. But it's just odd to me because I come from other games and I know alpha's the way to go. So when I got into Flesh and Blood, I was like, oh, this is alpha, and I can get bulk alpha and I can make decks. That's so cool. I want to do that. So that's why I got a lot of alpha. And then I started getting even more because stores just kept offering me really good deals and I just kept saying yes. And I feel like a dick kind of like saying all this stuff because I know that I'm very, biased in this. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It is going to do what it's going to do in the long term. I'm just making a video talking about it, but ultimately I have seen a reduction in supply out there. I used to be able to buy a bunch for 25 cents each. Now each seller only has like one per seller, and and I don't want to pay the 78-cent shipping for each seller. It's kind of annoying there. But ultimately, 25 cents, even though that is a pretty hikey price compared to where they were in the beginning. I mean, when you can get Alpha Bulk for like, I don't know, like 8 cents each, I think, and now it's like 25. It's hard to justify that larger price point, especially in a larger collection, and storing it. I mean, storing it takes a while, man. It takes a while to store all this stuff, and you need a lot of space. So it's not the sexiest type of thing. But what I think is that you're gonna have those middle tier people, like I said throughout this video, is that you're gonna have those types of people. Whereas the other type of things to collect and invest that are cold foil, that are, the alpha cold foils, those are just going to be like crazy for the high end investors. But I also want to bring you to something that I find important, which is margin. Think about your margin on things, guys. Like if a Heart of Fandale goes from like, I don't know, 60,000 to 120,000, that's what, 100% of value. Well, if an alpha bulk card goes from 25 cents to 50 cents, that's 100%. When you have a small amount and, and the increases, there's so much more margin on those smaller type of deals. And I have to look at that when I'm looking at things to, collect. And because at the end of the day, folks, I know you might look at me and say, oh man, Bronson's just in this for the money. No, I don't care what those common bulk go for. I am keeping my alpha collection safe and secure. I'm going to try to acquire as much as I can before I hit the hay in life. And I'm gonna I'm gonna try to get the goods. And the great thing about bulk, man, is I'm not preventing anyone from playing the game. If anyone wants to play the game with Welcome to Wrath cards, they can buy unlimited. There's tons out there, and it's like extremely cheap. So ultimately, I'm just a weirdo who just likes to. I'm like a dragon who like hoards a bunch of like alpha bulk. It's just fun. And I, time to time, I like going through the cards and sniffing them and doing all that stuff that all the weird stuff I like to do. But ultimately, man, I just don't understand. I don't understand why these cards are priced so low. I just think that Flesh and Blood's had like a really crazy like hype storms throughout its history, and after each new set release and after each new thing that people see, they get clouded. They get their mind is tunnel visioned into these certain realms that people are talking about. And it's all about the, oh, what's the next big thing? But you have to remember in life, guys, is that the next big thing was yesterday's dud. And you know, you might say that, oh, this is huge, but it's like, but you always have to have, a foresight, I believe, in life, because you know, if you just go with the market noise and what everyone's saying, it's just kind of you're not gonna get. Yeah, I don't know. It's just not smart. But yeah, yeah, for all those reasons, man. And again, I want to reiterate another point. It's with the Magic the Gathering cards. When you look at the commons and uncommons that are really cheap, I looked at that back in the day. And I looked at like building a Magic the Gathering deck, for just alpha or a full beta one. And I think 2 years ago I priced it out, and those cards were expensive. I mean, they were like $6, $7 each. I know now they're a lot more, but they were a lot of money, and the cards sucked. Like mechanically, they sucked. Like you could get this card called Flight that was like I think 2 mana, and it gave it gave a creature flying for like 1 turn, which is horrible. And then and there's all these other like protection of white and all these weird cards that you don't really use and that don't really have as much use, right? But those retain value because they were alpha, and that's literally the only reason. Is if people wanted a set collect, or and it really was because it was the alpha set and it had aged so long. But when you come to Flesh and Blood, and in 3 to 5 years, when people look back at the alpha set, I don't think there's really going to be too many dud cards. I mean, there's definitely going to be cards that don't really get played as much, but I definitely think that they all of them will have uses. And what's great about Flesh and Blood is if the card isn't that good, you just block with it, and then it serves its purpose, especially if it's a 3 block. I mean, I just think that overall the power creep in Flesh and Blood with all the commons are very like synergistic. So I think the price will hold with those long term because people have viable decks to create with them. And that's what I'm talking about, the mid-tier type of collector. So that's just my thoughts, and I'm gonna ramble a little bit more at the end. It's just something I don't understand. It's like I don't know. Like maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm like thinking too much into it, and it's no big deal at the end of the day because I don't care what happens to the price personally. It's not like I'm gonna unload all this shit. It's just kind of weird how nobody's really kind of talking about it or looking at it. And, it's just something that's always been kind of the child at the corner of the room that nobody cares about. It's just a very odd type of thing. Like, why? It's alpha. I don't know. Some things in life maybe you can't answer, man. But ultimately, I'm in. I like the cards. I'm currently, just speaking the truth, I'm currently not buying as much. If I see some types of things and I add it to an order if I'm already buying from a seller, but 25 cents is a good amount, and I don't really want to pay that much for alpha since I'm just predispositioned to the 8 cents a piece card. But ultimately, I just it's just something that is really interesting to me, especially with the print run information. When we heard about we previously thought 22,000 was the amount of Welcome to Wrath booster boxes, going from that to like the 16,000 range. That was a real like jolt to the system. That was like, whoa, there's really not as much as this as we thought. And ultimately, with everyone out there in the market who had acquired a good amount, because what other people don't understand too is there's stores out there who did mass box openings, especially for Arc. I know, not as much for Welcome to Wrath, I think. I definitely know for Arc I know a couple stores who did some pretty big box openings for a bunch of stuff. But for Arc, I don't remember as much, or for Welcome's Wrath, I don't remember as much. But there's these stores that probably just kept them in the box and just shoved them to the side and forgot about it. And honestly, there's probably a lot of stores who just threw it away. There's probably a lot of players who just threw it away. There's a big level of attrition where people just took the cards, they played the game, they're like, oh, this isn't for me, and just chucked them in the garbage. And I know that sounds crazy to you guys now, but it might have happened. So, or no, it definitely happened, but we don't know the amount, the percentage of attrition. That's the always tough number to back into. But anyway, I don't want to ramble too long. I just want to say that uh, to sum this all up and package it in a nice little box for you. The whole concept is alpha cards of any trading card game that's ever been out since the dawn of time have always commanded a very large premium for the cards because they were the first printed cards of everything. And I know the Ira Welcome deck was essentially like before Alpha, but Welcome to Wrath was the first set. The first set is the big deal. So when you have these bulk cards that are selling for 25 cents, 50 cents a piece, I don't understand why that's the price. I think the market has it wrong. This is not investment advice. I am an entertainer. This is entertainment here. I'm just a normal guy and I'm collecting bulk and sniffing cards. But ultimately, I think the market has it wrong, and I think it's just because the cards don't look sexy. Like the investment isn't sexy. It's not as flashy as the new stuff. People are very tunnel vision into new things, and people are waiting to see like what the next big thing is. And I just think that over time, the amount of supply for these cards will dwindle and dwindle and dwindle on TCG Player to where people start moving the prices up. People don't want to sell for 50 cents each. Maybe they sell for 75 and then a dollar. I've already seen this. Already sellers are doing that. So what happens when they're like, oh, $1.50, $2? When they have lower and lower supplies, they raise the price. I think that it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time before we get there, and we're heading on that path now. And ultimately, I think that if you're interested in Flesh and Blood and you're a collector like myself, or you just like the history of it, man, I think that it's really cool to go on TCG Player, build a jank deck for a bunch of commons and in whatever class you want, and you can literally build it for like less than $50. And I've been saying this for a really long time, for the last I think 6 months now, is that you can build one of these alpha decks for Blitz and is it going to be the best deck in the world? Absolutely not. Is it going to function? Are you going to be able to play in an event? Absolutely yes. And will things happen over time? I have no idea. But if you look at other TCGs, Alpha's always been king. So I think that it's a really cool thing, and it's highly underrated at this point. But ultimately, I think 25 cents is hard to go too deep on it. Personally, since I'm used to the old prices, but I just wanted to make a video and talk about it because it just baffles me. It's and please let me know in the comments below if I'm missing something. Maybe Alpha isn't king. Maybe maybe theta or beta or xenu, any other the Greek alphabet letters of sets is better than alpha. I don't know. Maybe there's something else at play here, but yeah, I just for all those reasons I just I just don't understand. Thanks for watching, man.